Greetings and welcome into the Whatcom Preps podcast. This is episode 118, and it's a special coaches edition. I'm Ryland Spencer. Along with me, as always, Tyler Anderson of Whatcom Preps. Tyler, how we doing?
Doing great, man. It's summertime, and this is going to be a special one because we've been waiting to talk to Coach Plenkovich for a while, so I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, we've got Jamie Plenkovich here, 173 and 61 overall, the winningest coach in Ferndale history, fifth winningest coach of all time in Whatcom County history, entering his 19th year at Ferndale, and also arguably the best greenskeeping head coach in Whatcom County history. Coach Plenkovich, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. Where else would you rather be than spending some time with you guys here on the summer? And thanks to Tyler for donning some Ferndale gear there.
Yeah,
that's right.
We read that you are that before you got the job at Sehome, you were working as a superintendent, greenskeeper, whatever it is. And then we also saw that it said you had a 14 handicap. Are you still golfing? What's the golf game like?
Well, that's the problem. My work seems to get in the way with golf. Sometimes that's not a bad thing. I like to start the year out hot, and then I remember all my bad habits. And I'm usually really happy that football's starting, so I don't have to play that damn game anymore. So I am not currently a 14 by any means.
That sounds like you might be worse.
Yeah, I would say I'm worse than a 14 right now for sure.
Right here, you can see a Sehome helmet. Coach Kevin Beeson over at Sehome, he gave that to me the other day. Kind of cool. It's got my number on the other side, and then maybe the most beautiful face mask in the history of football down the front of it. But Coach Beeson, somebody obviously you played at Sehome. When you walk, anytime you guys get a chance to play, maybe at Civic Stadium, do you have fond memories of the place? Does it bring back memories of coming out and playing for the Mariners?
Well, I would say we weren't necessarily very good when I played. I have more fond memories of coaching there with Berger Solberg, and he really was my mentor, continues to influence how we do things at Ferndale, how I coach, what I believe in. And I couldn't have been more lucky to get a chance to start my coaching career really with coaching underneath him. So that's really my fondest memories of coaching at Sehome, and really kind of being a part of turning around things there into a consistently successful program with him. So yeah, super fun times. I was there for a lot of years, and I don't miss sharing a stadium. It's nice in Ferndale where you have your own stadium. Well, we don't have it right now, but we'll get back to that point. But yeah, super great place to play a game.
Well, you kind of touched on it, Ferndale getting a new stadium, and I've only been to one game at the old stadium, and I was super happy to get a chance to go there. We actually broadcasted a game between you guys and Linden one year, and I remember they put us up on the roof up there, obviously, and there was, I think, 4 or 5 girls that came in to sing the national anthem. And they asked us to step outside. And as we stepped outside, there was like a train that went by and the whole place started to shake. I thought I was going to die. It was unbelievable. Obviously, Ferndale, like we said, getting a new stadium. You guys have played it. You played at Blaine last year. You're going to play at Blaine again. Any updates on the stadium, kind of where it's at? I mean, I drove by it. I don't remember what game I went to, Tyler, but we kind of like drove by it. All the construction looks awesome up there.
Yeah, it's going to be a phenomenal project when it's done. And actually, grandstands are a lot of the way completed. But we got to tear down the old gym, which they're doing right now, to the stadium field track goes into that portion of the gym. So next summer, they'll be laying the turf for us, and we'll be ready to go next fall. But yeah, super excited for our community, kids, families to open up a new facility here in this next year.
You can't see it, Coach, but you say lay on the turf, and a little tear just kind of rolls down my eye. I'm a fan of grass. Tyler knows that one, but Tyler, what do you got for Coach?
Yeah, so Coach, I love the history and stuff, and you've been around in Whatcom County high school football for a long time. You right now with you guys and Linden, you guys have had this rivalry for so long, even though it's not a conference game or doesn't count against the conference record. But compare that rivalry with the old Sehome Bellingham rivalry from the 80s and the 90s. Is there kind of a comparison there?
There's definitely a comparison, I think, of the passion involved between both fan bases and the attention the game drew. I think the difference in the Ferndale-Linden rivalry has been both teams are typically really good. Long before I got to Ferndale even, they've just been typically at the top of, if we're in the same league or the leagues we're in. So I think that's probably just the main difference, but certainly the passion in the game and the rivalry between the two teams is similar.
We touched on Coach Beeson a little earlier. He was an ex-teammate of yours. You guys played on the offensive line together. Tell us about what he was like as a player.
He was, I think I was a senior and he was maybe a sophomore, if I remember right. And he came in and started as a sophomore, and he was a big dude back then.
Yeah.
Very similar, super quiet, real humble, just a great guy to be around. So he was a welcome addition to our O-line group for sure.
Coach, let's go real quick. Let's do 5 names right now, huh? So I'll give you a name. You just give me kind of the first thing that comes to mind. And, look, if you expand on it, you go 2 or 3 minutes with one name, you're more than welcome to do it. But we kind of want, what is your
I hope
first?
you don't stump me. That's what I'm hoping. Don't stump me.
No. Oh no, trust me. Well, let me put it to you this way. I'm not the biggest Whatcom County guy. You're going to know, I know 3 of them. A 4th one, I remember his son. And then the 5th one, you'll definitely know here. So the first one on the list is Mike Kruzich.
Mike Kruzich, back from Sehome days.
Yeah.
That's a Tyler Anderson special right there.
Wow, that is a throwback. Holy cow. He was, I played linebacker next to him some. He was a senior when I was a junior, and we were all afraid of him. He was a super imposing player that played even with the mean streak, right, back in those days. And great linebacker, great lineman, and a good leader on our team. And yeah, that's a throwback to a long, long time ago. He just tall, lanky. I think back and I think he was probably about 6'4".
Yeah.
Stud athlete, and definitely was the leader on our team and the physical leader on our team.
Speaking of a leader here, number 2 on the list, Jake Locker. What can you tell us about Jake?
Well, I got the chance to play against him my last 2 years at Sehome, and we got lucky. Somehow we beat him both years. But when he was a freshman, he was starting at corner. We had an all-league wide receiver, and I won't use his name so he's not embarrassed or anything. But part of our game plan going in was to attack the freshman corner because our guy was really good, and we're going against this skinny freshman. And so after the first quarter, I think, he almost picked 1 or 2 of them when we went after him. And I don't think we completed one against him, and game plan went out the window. So really knew even then when he was a freshman that this kid's probably going to be pretty special, but I had no idea how good he would be. Then we played him as a sophomore, and now he was playing quarterback and defensive back. And just every time he had the ball in his hands, just fearing for our lives of him making a big play, right? He was just so dynamic as a sophomore, and I think we got pretty lucky to win that game. And then coming out and coaching him as he and a really special group. I knew they were pretty good, but then going out there and starting to work with them, we just had a super special group, and it showed in that 2-year run. I couldn't have had better timing of moving somewhere with an elite special group of players with him being at the lead. And when your best guys are your hardest workers and most dedicated, you have a chance to be pretty special. And he would come in. He played baseball, obviously, was a super good baseball player, and he had started his sophomore year doing track workouts before school because he wanted to get faster with the coach that was there the year before I got there, Adam Matheson. And then he continued to do that into his junior year because he just wanted to, any way he could get better, he wanted to work on that piece. He wasn't afraid to get after it. So just, getting super lucky with the foundation that we had at Ferndale again. I always knew it was a special place to be, but I didn't understand how the foundation building blocks gave you such a great chance to be successful in the program. It's why the program's been good for a long time. It's not just me who's lucky to be the head coach or the people before me. We have great support from the community and great kids that come in there that want to work hard. So yeah, coming there and the run we went on his junior year, the best thing that happened to us that year was losing to Linden. And he really pressed in that game. I think we fumbled a punt return or a kickoff. I can't remember what it was. And Linden was very good, lost in the semifinals to Bellevue. And then we were lucky enough to turn around and make it to the finals and just lose out in a really great comeback by our kids to an unbelievable Bellevue team. And then followed up the next year where you couldn't really relax. There was a lot of expectations on us to be really good. Our kids handled it really well, but as a coach, there weren't very many gratifying wins until you got late into the playoffs because it was, what we were supposed to do. But yeah, he is, continues to work with our kids now. He is, you hear everybody say it, he was an unbelievable athlete, but he is a way better person than that. And our kids are lucky to get a chance to be around him and be mentored by him and see just the type of person he is and how he lives his life.
I think it was about a year and a half ago, we had Jake on doing something similar to this. Was it episode 50, Tyler, I think?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And Tyler asked him about when he used to run holding his breath. Do you remember that? Like, was that something that you guys knew he did?
No, I mean, I'm trying to think back. It isn't something I think I remembered that he did.
Yeah. Well, it caught him off guard. He goes, wait, how did you know that? Like, yeah. Tyler totally caught him off guard. And he was like, yeah, like I'd go to the sideline and start sucking on oxygen or like whatever it was. He was like blown away that Tyler knew it. And of course, I'm sitting here going, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Tyler knew some crazy thing like that. The next one on the list, Coach Ted Flint.
Ted Flint and I started out the same year at Sehome as assistants to Berger. And this is you talk about being fortunate in your situation as you grow up as a coach and being around both he and Berger, huge influences on me. He was a guy that came in, he had been at Cedar Woolley, understood the wing tee inside and out, was immediately a contributor on the Sehome staff from that aspect. I still had a lot to learn, really. He did an unbelievable job as Berger got sick, taking over a really difficult situation and managing that. And his football IQ, how he cares for kids, he super special guy. I got to be really good friends with him, obviously, with all the time we spent together. Very sneaky sense of humor. He's a chemistry teacher, right? And
chemistry teacher.
Yeah, he's you get to know him, and he lets his guard down a little bit. He's got a great sense of humor.
I know a lot of coaches around the state. I can't think of any of them that are chemistry teachers. I mean, that is a lot. Like, very rarely are they even in science, teaching of science, let alone chemistry. That's a new one. Yeah. Next one on the list, Coach, is Kurt Cramey.
Oh man, you're hitting me with some good ones.
Yeah.
a couple of great stories on Kurt, and it goes back to Berger. Berger was a Mount Baker guy, played for Mount Baker. Mount Baker guys do not like Linden people. And so we kind of, back in the day, they were usually better than us at Sehome, but Berger loved to beat Linden. So we had this rivalry, and because of that, I grew up starting as coaching thinking that they were kind of the bad guys, right? They were the big evil guys from Linden who always won and were always good, and you just didn't like them. And then over the course of coaching, for as long as I have, you get to know them in outside, seeing them in outside things, coaches clinics, see them socially a couple times, just really realized what a genuine, great person he was. And to the point, like the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years, we started playing golf together, some in the off season, and, compete like heck against each other when we're in the season, but a ton of respect for him. Just really loved being around him, loved how he ran his program. He was super classy. I remember a good story on him was we kind of went in runs against them. We had a good group and would win 2 or 3 years in a row, and then he would reciprocate. And it was after the Jake Locker years, maybe even, I can't remember if it's Casey, when Josh Kraft got there as a sophomore and lit us up in our game, was a difference maker in our game with them that year. And he came across the field and said, "It's sure nice to have the best player on the field finally," right? And I couldn't argue with him.
Yeah.
So he had witnessed it with Jake and Casey and Brady for a few years, and so he had Josh Kraft, and he was only a sophomore then, so I knew we're going to have to deal with him for 3 years. But super special person, and in my, again, growing up as a coach and having 2 mentors or 2, maybe Kurt not so much a mentor, more a peer, but people that I really respected, and Berger Solberg and him, and just die way too young. And I still miss both of them. I still think about both of them and how they might handle a situation. And that's, I think that's a testament to the type of people both Kurt and Berger were. So yeah, people might not like to hear that, but yeah, I still miss getting a chance to, us walk down the fairway and talk football or talk things that we're doing with our teams, or just our, what we believe in and why. And yeah, really feel blessed to have gotten to know them in a different way. And again, you kind of, like I said, you grew up thinking, oh, I don't like this guy. And then once you get to know him, you realize, wow, he's probably a lot like me, and we have a lot in common, and a lot of things we can talk about. So
you mentioned golf and walking down the fairway with Coach Cramey. Let's say there was 10 rounds of golf. How many of them is Plenkovich winning? How many of them are Cramey winning?
Cramey was a darn good golfer. I would say he would probably 8 out of 10. I might get lucky a couple times and beat him, but he played a lot too. But, yeah, he's a good golfer, and the right temperament, right? There's something about that coaching wise. I think golf, you got to have the right temperament to play your best golf, and Kurt was always in control, right? Yeah, always in control of that.
Yeah, he's got it way better than I do. I'm the guy throwing clubs in the lake. Yeah. Coach, the last one on this list, and it's a name that you've mentioned a lot already, is Berger Solberg. What can you tell? What can you tell? I mean, you've already said a lot, but what can you give us to the people at home watching, listening? Maybe one kind of like, who was he? What were maybe some philosophies he had that still, shape what you do today?
I can tell you like a specific instance in a game that kind of tells you a little bit about just the type of person he was and why he was such a great leader. And it's why I still take things from him into my, try to take those things into my coaching career. ongoing. We are, I might have been third year in, and he had maybe the defensive coordinator, and he had really kind of ran the defense up to that. And, he had said, okay, you're going to take this piece over, and we're playing, I want to say we're playing Shorecrest, and we're either up 7-0 or it's 0-0 right before half, and Shorecrest gets the ball. And they start kind of chunking down the field, and I get impatient, and there's not a lot of time left in the half, under a minute for sure. And they're probably on our 40-yard line and moved the ball, had moved the ball down the field to that point. So I decided we're going to come after them, go all out blitz. And we do, and they beat us for like a 40-yard touchdown. So tie it up, and there's probably 30 some seconds left. We go in at halftime. We're all on the phones together, right? So he knows what we're doing. We go in at halftime, and we're meeting outside in the tunnel before we go talk to the kids. And he looks at me and he says, okay, you tell me why you called that blitz. And I kind of went through my thinking. He said, well, what if we had just played our base defense and kept it in front of us? Did they have enough time to score? No, But my point in saying the story is he could have changed it before the call went in. He was on the phones. He could have changed it, but he wanted it to be a growing lesson for me as a coach, and it was way more impactful. He was willing to risk potentially losing that game to help me grow as a coach, right? And like I said, I have never forgot that lesson about what he did in that game. And it was just how confident he was and what he believed in. And when you felt like you could do anything when he believed in you. And he did not have ego in coaching. He was all about, all of us working together, and his ego he didn't have an ego, and that's not always the case with guys in this profession. Those are a couple of things I can tell you. Like I said, I super impactful in me, not just as a football coach, but as a person.
Okay, so that story, Coach, you mentioned kind of like how he really used it as a learning lesson for you. Has there ever been a time since you've been a head coach where you've kind of had the similar situation and you handled it maybe the same way?
Yes, and I really struggled. I don't think I was as clean with it as he was. I think I said, "Are you sure you want to call that?" before the play got ran, but I let it run, and what I thought was going to happen happened. And so very similar. Got a chance to talk to our coach. And I can't remember if it was halftime or after the game. Might have been in the second half that happened, but got a chance to talk to him and kind of walk through the same thing. So it hasn't happened a ton, but it's also, and it's something I still have to get better at. But when you give something up, you have to give it up and trust that the guys that are doing it for you, you're there to support them and to help coach them along. Growing as a coach. And so you don't give them something and then micromanage it. Now, my assistants might argue with you on that, but I try to live that as best I can.
So one of the things we like to do, Coach, with the 5 names is not so much catch you off guard, but kind of like get an instant reaction. One thing I didn't tell you is that we have a picture to show you.
Oh, no.
That we want to we kind of want to just get your reaction. This isn't bad. Like Tyler, who was the young man that we showed the picture to?
Yeah, Caleb Lumen.
Caleb Lumen. I don't know if you remember Caleb Lumen from Blaine. He was a quarterback with a really strong arm. And so Tyler, was it the Herald who did the picture?
Yeah, they had like an artist draw like a cartoon character of him with a cannon for an arm, like an actual cannon him with a like ready to light it. Yeah.
And that one I think caught him off guard pretty good. This one isn't maybe as good, but we got a picture here that we just kind of want to get your instant reaction to and see what you think of this one. So here we go. You should be able to see it here in a second.
Oh boy.
We got to hear chasing down Dean Fenton.
Wow.
Finds himself with an ardent pursuer in Mariner defender Jamie Plenkovich. First off, that face mask, coach, is just gorgeous. I mean, that is an unbelievably good looking face mask. Do you remember this play? Did you get to him? Did you get to him a lot that night? What goes through your mind when you see this?
That's a good question. I'm guessing that's my senior year, and so I probably didn't get to him because I think they beat us that year. Yeah, I don't remember the play specifically. That was, a few years ago. I tell our kids all the time, I couldn't start for the teams that we've had, at Ferndale. I was an okay high school player, I was by no means a superstar. And I think it's probably helped me in my coaching career, right? Knowing my limitations that I had and trying to get the most out of our kids and not ask them to do things that they can't do. But I don't even know I don't remember ever seeing that picture before, actually. So you went way in the archives for that.
That's the Tyler Anderson special.
To get it, snap the pic if I was a little closer, maybe, right?
I think the most disappointing part, coach, is that as old as the picture is, it's not at least a little bit blurry to make it look like you're faster,
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree.
Oh, man.
Camera doesn't lie. We always tell our kids that.
So coach, I don't want to, keep talking about Sehome stuff. We'll get to the Ferndale stuff in a little bit, but your time at Sehome, you talked about it. There were some really good teams. And, playing at the 4A level and stuff like that, especially in the late 90s and the early 2000s. There were some great players that you coach. You think of Josh Smith, Tyler Simpson, Matt Eichelberger, Graham Lassay. Do you have kind of like a guy that was just like, this guy was just, obviously you coach Jake Locker, but at the Sehome, there were some really good ones. Anyone I'm forgetting, or are those kind of the big four?
Justin Pendry.
Yeah, Justin Pendry.
Evan Ayers.
Yeah, Evan Ayers.
Yeah. We had a good run of players there. While I was there, it was, Jordan Chalfant. We had some Mike McAvoy.
Yeah.
We had a run of guys there that made us really competitive for sure. And it was like I said, the most gratifying thing there was kind of being a part of really turning things around under Berger and becoming a winning culture. And I can't remember how long it was, but we didn't have many losing seasons there for a good run of years, which was super special.
Yeah, I just remember seeing Josh Smith was a senior when I was a freshman, and I was terrified of him. I mean, he was just a beast on the basketball court, football field. Boy, he earned that scholarship to UW.
Couldn't practice with him, right? He knew only one speed. You could not have him in practice without him just absolutely destroying the drill or trying to give, our defense a look with him up front. It was absolutely pointless because he only knew one speed, played super, super hard. And that was, pretty contagious to the guys around him. And yeah, he was a great player.
So this is kind of an interesting question. And this is something I always like to ask a coach. You were talking about, how you were an average high school player. You had limitations. Is there a player that you've coached that reminds you of the high school version of you?
First guy that pops, there's a lot of them, right? But the first guy that pops into my mind actually was on our state championship team, and it was Jesse Young, played outside backer for us and tight end. Probably one of the smallest guys on the field for that group.
Right.
And I should say he understood what the other team was trying to do to us. He could get everyone lined up He was super into the scouting reports that we had. Like I said, he was like having another coach on the field. He was one of our team captains. Not the most athletic guy, not the biggest guy, but was an integral part of that state championship team, just with the role he played. And if you just looked at him athletically, there were a lot of guys better than him in that group athletically, for sure. But he was a key component to that team.
That's a great comparison.
Now, Tyler, this is the point where we're supposed to, according to our show sheet, we're kind of supposed to move more into this year's Ferndale team. Before we go any further, though, Tyler,
yeah,
we've talked a lot about Sehome, a lot about some of these. I want to, you need to get it out of your system. I want to make sure you got it all out of your system. Any older questions, anything you wanted, like, give me, I want to make sure it's all gone, Tyler.
No, I think I'm good. I just love reminiscing about the past, and Coach has been around for so long. I know he's got great stories. So I heard some good ones. I'm ready to move along.
Okay. That's good.
Well, how about this?
Catch me a few times, so I appreciate it.
Tyler, I remember in the past we've asked a question to some coaches where it was like, maybe go back and was there a moment or a game that you would maybe redo it and do it over again and change the way you did something? And I don't remember who it was, Tyler, but somebody that we talked to about this, maybe it was K-Mink, gave just a phenomenal answer. Coach, do you have a situation like that where it's like there's the one thing where you're like, I would do this differently and I think it would have maybe resulted differently for us? And
this, I don't think, was even when I was a head coach. We were in the quarterfinals when we were at Sehome against a team from Southwest Washington. I can't remember if it was like Evergreen or one of those teams. And it was a windstorm. It was 40-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, it in the first half, we punted, it went backwards. For example, it was super gusty winds. And we had won the toss and deferred, or they had won the toss and chose the ball. So the start of the second half, we had the choice of whether we were, wanted the ball or we could take the wind or whatever. We chose the ball, and they chose, obviously, to kick with the wind. And they pinned us deep, and we never changed field position in that game because of the wind. And so they played on short fields for that third quarter, took the lead, and had us pinned, and we could not get out of it in the fourth quarters, and we ended up losing that game. And it was a really good team. We would have gone to the semis. So that one's always stuck with me, as far as if we had to do that differently, we would have, even though we would have kicked off both halves, we should have, with how bad that wind was, we should have kicked with the wind and tried to play field position and maybe get a couple scores in that third quarter, just like they did. So that one's always stuck with me.
Has there ever been a point in your career since then where you've kind of maybe thought back to that in a game and said to yourself, you know what, we're gonna take the wind on this one specifically because of past memories?
Yeah, we played Stanwood in another windstorm very similar, and we did exactly that. And I can't remember if it was to start the game or the second half, and it was a fairly close game at the time. We definitely took the wind in that game.
That's
so yeah, it's played out again. It's hopefully you don't have to learn those things twice, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of things I've had to learn twice the hard way, but that's one that's always definitely stuck with me.
All right, officially done, Tyler. Move on to present day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hands are up. He's giving in. Although, you know what, Tyler? That's an old shirt now. That's
Yes,
not even the right logo anymore.
I know.
You got to get you a game and get an updated shirt this year.
Yeah.
And colors, by the way, and colors.
Yes. Actually, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Coach, one of the first guys that we want to talk about here, I just want to talk about Landon Hatchett. He's somebody that Tyler and I talk about a lot. I myself was a center, so I love watching Landon Hatchett play the game. It's not really traditional for your type of offense to pull your center, but I saw you guys doing it. Tyler, what game did I go to last year? Garfield.
Yeah.
And I saw him out there on the run. And I mean, it brought not only a tear to my eye, but it warmed the cockles of my heart. I mean, I was super excited to see it. First off, have you done that in the past? Have you pulled your center in the past, or is it because he's who he is?
Yeah, we have never done that before. And coming into each and every, our being a wing T team, we have always identified that weak guard as probably where our best athlete, best lineman goes, because it's somebody that has to pull and play in space and you do a lot of things with. And we debated before his junior year about whether we move him from center because his brother graduated, and whether we move him to center to that spot. And we decided instead that we were going to try to tweak blocking schemes based on fronts and what we were seeing, and see if he could pull from the center position. And I've never seen it in high school. I've never seen a center, we've never played against somebody that consistently pulls their center. It's just a really hard thing to do, to snap the ball and pull. And so it's just a testament to how good of an athlete he is, how good of a player he is, that we're able to do it. And then it gives us so much flexibility in what we do, and the blocking schemes we can use against different fronts with having him at that center spot. And then he's running the show too, right? So he's allowed us to do a lot of different things that we have never done before.
I've referred to him over the last couple of years as ugly. It's not a shot at his physical appearance, although that hair is a little wild at times. I love the way he plays the game. I love that, he's always looking to finish a block, but it's not so much like, let's finish the block as, like pancake the guy or just, run him into the stands, because, sometimes, hey, you know what, I could get rid of this guy and maybe get upfield and grab somebody else also. When you think of him though, like I've been around him a lot at camps and different things, and he's just always got this goofy smile on his face. He always looks like he's up to something. And then I see Tyler sends me a picture of him playing catcher, where he looks, I mean, I don't know how he even fits behind home plate and in front of the umpire. Is he as much of a character, say, in practices and just, like he knows when to buckle down, obviously, but is he the guy that we all think he is, kind of like away from maybe the cameras and stuff?
Oh yeah, he does. He started some Tuesday with the leadership crew. He goes around and asks a question at school. Could be our line coach, could be other students that they post on, forgive me, I think TikTok. I could be wrong. But yeah, he has a ton of personality. He's just, he's his own guy, comfortable in his own skin. And he is a great kid. Yeah, and again, just a phenomenal leader for us. So yeah, he's got a great personality. If I'm an umpire, I'm feeling pretty damn good when he's playing catcher. Very unlikely a ball is going to get by that big body, right? To me. So yeah, and it shows you what kind of athlete he is. He set the home run record for Ferndale. Big guys don't normally have that twitch that he has, that athletic twitch. And we saw it, Garen was a really good player for us, his brother. And when we were in COVID, we happened to be practicing some when there was no games on the horizon. We had the linemen play 7-on-7 against some of our secondary guys, and we couldn't stop him catching the ball. He is just, he ran routes, he caught the ball, he was, and he won't let me forget that either. I think he'd like to, play tight end a couple times, but he is a phenomenal athlete. That's why he can do what he does at the center position.
Another young man that I'm a huge fan of, maybe a little bit different of a personality, but he's also kind of a goofball. Jake Mason recently picks up his first offer from Eastern Washington University. Now, I sent him a text and I said, hey, what position did they offer you? Because I noticed that he tagged Jace Budarak, the offensive line coach, and he says, I think it was center with a question mark. You might have the two best centers in Whatcom County. Next year, when we do our WFL draft, I might be drafting two centers right off the back just to have them. But Coach, tell us about Jake Mason. When a team offers a kid like that, and then they say, hey, we'd like him to play center, does it surprise you that they want him at center? Or do you think that, he's definitely athletic enough, and that's kind of what they want. I don't know if you remember Spencer Blackburn. He was a 3 or 4 year starter there. He's a lot like Spencer Blackburn in terms of like physical, abilities and stuff. But did it surprise you to see or to hear center for Jake Mason?
No, not really. He's a great defensive player for us as well. But I can see why they like him there. He's going to put on weight pretty easily at their level. And again, they see his athleticism. And so with his size and athleticism, I'm not surprised that he's an interior, potential interior lineman for them. I still think, he also has the skills to be he's one of the best pass rushers we've ever had, for sure. He has that natural ability. It's really tough to teach that. He gets off the ball. He never quits on a play. He is a great player.
Yeah, I think it really surprised. I love him. I think I would have thought he was a defensive end, maybe bulk up even a little bit into like a 3 technique or something. But I look at Jake and I just see a guy that, man, he knows how to get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So to hear on the offensive line, it maybe didn't surprise me because I know what they like at center, but I think it's just really cool to see a young man like him get his first offer. I know how hard he's worked,
Yes.
But another young man, it's kind of one of those unfortunate things where his recruitment was kind of just continuously going up, and now things are, maybe stalling a little bit. Isaiah Carlson, obviously he gets hurt towards the end of last season. What can you tell us about Isaiah? I'm sure, was he still around the team helping out, kind of what's it been like for him going through this injury process, as far as what have you seen?
He's done, it's hard he's not used to standing around and watching anything, right? He is one of the best athletes on the field anytime he steps on the field. So to, have to watch basketball, watch the end of our season, which was really tough. He's done a great job attacking rehab, and he's on track to be ready to go for us in the fall. So he's a special kid. It's fun to watch him mature and grow and get to know him better. As he becomes a senior and a leader on our football team. So yeah, I'm excited it's really tough to come, he would have had a lot more attention by now had he not suffered that injury. And you can do one of two things. You can kind of sulk about it and, say, poor me. And I haven't seen any of that from him. He has worked his butt off in his rehab, going to Everett a couple times a week for rehab to get himself back. And I'm sure he's going to have a great year for us.
Yeah, he is something special, especially on both sides of the ball, and especially with the way you guys run your offense. I mean, he's a big time player. Another player that I was going to ask you about is Zach Nielsen, who is a transfer from Sehome. I saw you guys out at Blaine at the scrimmage. He was an impact guy, high energy guy. He gets a lot of guys going. What kind of impact do you think he can have as a sophomore this year for you?
Well, super excited for him. Yeah, he was a Ferndale kid, so
right.
He went family situation or something where he went to Sehome for part of his freshman year and transferred back to Ferndale. He had great impact in the spring. He has a high football IQ. So it's interesting as you start practicing with guys, and some guys really already have a jump on understanding the game and understanding what they're doing and the bigger picture. which you love from a safety, right? He's seeing the whole field and seeing what his responsibility as well as others is. He plays really hard. He made impact plays on offense for us. So yeah, excited to see what he can do this year. He's certainly going to have an opportunity with us.
It's been a long time since you've had a team that didn't have a Brosel on it.
Yeah.
Probably close to 8 or 9 years or so.
Tyler, that should have been the game that you should have played. Name the Brosel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and do you see perhaps Zach, being that wing back maybe, or is it hard to say right now?
It's hard to say because we'll see how Isaiah comes back, and what load he can take, especially early in the season. So Zach will definitely rep at both those spots and compete, if Isaiah's on the field, he'll definitely compete at that wing spot with some other guys that we have back for playing time. And then like I said, he'll also get some reps at halfback. He showed it in the spring that he's got some ability, and we want to do the right thing with Isaiah and make sure that we bring him back a little bit. It's gonna be hard for me as a coach because I don't want to see him standing next to me on the sideline and during a game. So that's something that I'm going to have to get, better at, and making sure we're doing a good job of bringing him back the right way. And that's going to mean that other guys are going to have to take some reps.
Yeah.
Week 1, Coach Linden. Well, you know what? I think you might have just answered my question. I was going to say, do you like playing that rivalry game right out of the chute, or would you rather maybe play a different game and then get those guys? I mean, it's a non-league game, so I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't count towards, the winning, say, a Wesco 3A championship. But, what are your thoughts on that? Playing what is essentially your biggest rival right off the back?
It's a little, you could say it's good and bad, right? It definitely has our players' attention. So you're going to be practicing with it's not going to be hard for us to get our guys' attention during the, 2-a-day tough practices that, we all know who we got on the schedule first up, and they're got everybody back. They're going to be a really good football team. So that part is a positive. You miss a little bit of the buildup of playing that later in the year when, probably you have some more understanding that, both teams are really good, and depending on records, that could be a really, really marquee game towards the end of the year. But our schedules don't allow it with league play, just how it falls. And both Lyndon and us felt like it was still important to keep that rivalry game. And so we'll play them anytime, anywhere. We're happy to have them on our schedule. I think it's a very cool game. I tell our kids before that game every year how lucky they are to play in something like that. There's a lot of kids that play their high school career that never experience the atmosphere that our kids get to experience in that game. And it doesn't matter whether it's game 1 or game 7. That atmosphere is still electric. It's still really special. And it's just a great experience for our players. So hopefully we can keep that thing going here. It gets tougher when you're in different leagues.
I thought it was really cool when I was out there at the Linden Ferndale game, it looked like it was like 5 or 6 people deep, around the track.
Yeah.
The stands, I got there 2 hours before the game. Before I even got everything set up, I was kind of looking down below, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of people walking in here. And you look down through the tunnel that I could see down there, and it was like, this place is packed already. It was like an hour before the game. It was crazy. You guys are not afraid to play a tough non-conference schedule, some non-conference games. In the past, I think you guys have played like a Lake Stevens. You guys have never really shied away. This year, Glacier Peak. It's an away game at Glacier Peak. Really tough environment. They do a really good job down there. Coach Shane Keck, and a lot of expectations on the Grizzlies to be a top 4A program this year. Do you guys seek that out in your non-conference games, or does it kind of sometimes just fall that way?
Sometimes it falls that way. And I think what happens is you don't have, when you've been consistent like we have, there's a lot of schools that don't want you on their schedule. And so, we're a week 3 non-league game, and Glacier Peak had the same problem where they have people know they're going to be good, and they have people that are turning down opportunities to play them. And so we're both kind of in the same boat of sometimes it's tough for us to find a game. And, do you want our non-league schedules? We have 2 non-league games, and they're Linden and Glacier Peak. So that is going to be a huge challenge for us. We're excited about it, but I think we're not going to shy away from playing someone, and we're going to learn something about ourselves at that point. Heading in, we'll have had 1 league game a week before, but heading into league, you're going to find out the things that you need to work on when you play those teams. You're not going to get a false sense of where you might be as a group. So there's a ton of positives into playing teams like that are going to push you. And we have, postseason aspirations. So we want to find out where we're at and what we got to get better at.
Coach, I got to ask you really quickly. Last year's game against Arlington was one of the unbelievable games I'd ever seen. The final drive, the touchdown catch. When I wrote the story, I likened it to the Lynn Swan catch in the Super Bowl. Obviously, Connor Walker makes a great play, but then you choose to go for 2, to go for the win. What was your thought process? Why? And just kind of that last drive. Tell us about that last drive.
Well, let's talk about the game before that and why I'm super proud of our kids, because I have coached a long time. We fumbled and lost 3 kickoff returns.
Yeah.
So we're getting the ball back, and we gave it right back to Arlington 3 times in that game. Oof. And for us to come back, we talk about it at practice all the time that, adversity is going to happen, and we don't care about that adversity part. We care about what happens next. And that was such a great example of our kids staying focused in that moment and just worried about, caring about what happens next. Yeah, we know things had not gone good for us in that game, that whole game. And if you remember, the weather was also atrocious. So, why we went for 2, the ball was wet. I just felt like I liked our chances of going for 2 as much or more than kicking an extra point and tying it and extending that game. And it was, got us a huge momentum swing, getting that 2-point conversion. But I just felt with the weather, the wind, it really was an ugly night that I didn't want to, there were a lot of things that could have gone wrong in an extra point. Extra point in high school is a little bit more challenging than what you see on TV, right? So, and we had young guys at the kicker and holder position. So it's hard for them to stand on the sidelines and then put them in the game at that moment that, can be so impactful. So we just felt like that was the right call to go for 2 there, and gave us the best chances of being successful.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. It was
again, coaching for a long time. We had no business winning that game, and for our kids to come back and what ended up, that game ended up being huge. Arlington ended up beating Marysville and gave us the 1 seed because we had hung in there and got the win. And I love when that reveals the character of your guys, right? Yeah. You're doing the right thing. You feel like you're doing the right thing when your team responds like that. So super proud of our kids and coaches in that game.
And I don't want to be premature in this, but Connor Walker could be, when his career is over, he could be the greatest receiver in Ferndale history. Obviously, there's not a lot of throwing history, but even as a safety, he's a great player. Just tell us about his maturation and how he's come along for you these last year or so.
He's a great athlete. It's really nice having a physical mismatch out there. You feel like against a lot of high school corners, he's just a big, strong body that goes up and gets the ball really well. You don't have to be, You don't have to put the ball exactly where it needs to be for him to go get it and still create a big play. And that game was a great example of that. And yeah, his catch in the corner of the end zone is one of the best high school catches I've seen. In traffic, somebody all over him, and he had the concentration to make that play, again, in bad weather too. It wasn't like things were perfect conditions for that game. Seen him grow a lot on defense. I'm super excited for him this year, right? He was a sophomore last year. I expect big things from him being able to help other guys around him this year, and not just being, as a sophomore, you're more concerned about yourself and knowing your assignment. He's going to be able to take a leadership role in that secondary. He's athletic, he's physical. So yeah, super excited for what he can bring to the table this year.
You mentioned earlier, Coach, that I think you said the kicker and the holder were young guys on that field goal. You've had some really good kickers over the years. I don't know what it is in the water at Ferndale, but you guys, it seems like a lot of them have been lefties, maybe.
We had a run of lefties, yeah.
Yeah, what is going? How? I mean, lefty kickers. I can't do anything left-footed. I can barely walk with my left foot. Is the kicker returning? Who is it, and what should we know about him?
We have a couple guys coming back that competed at that spot last year. Funny thing is, we had some injuries there, so we were shuttling guys in and out. And I think even in the Arlington game, we were down to somebody that hadn't even practiced on kickoffs, kicking off for us in that game. So all three of those guys are back. They're, working in off season to get better at their craft. For us, our kickers typically play other positions too. So, we've been fortunate in having some good guys over the years, but excited to see what those guys can bring this year.
The first time you saw Mark Schlichting's name, did you know how to say his last name?
I'm trying to remember. I think I probably guessed, right? And I don't remember
we
if
did
I was
too.
right or wrong.
It was Tyler had one name. I kind of had it another way. And then I think, what was it, Tyler? Was it his dad who finally made sure we got it right?
That's right. Yeah, he messaged us and really pronounced it for us, and we knew after that it wasn't Schlichting or anything like that. So we finally got it right.
Tyler, I don't have anything else. You got anything else for Coach?
I think we're good. I love talking about Ferndale football. It's such a rich history. It's going to be weird going to a game at Ferndale that's not at the Memorial Stadium. I mean, it's unbelievable atmosphere, and I know it's going to be unbelievable again. It'll just be different, and it's always a fun place to go at practice. Coach, thank you so much for letting me come out and do my thing, and it's always great to see Frank Finkbonner out there, and he's always on the sidelines.
Yeah, whoa! We can't talk Ferndale and not at least mention Donnie Finkbonner. That's our thing, right? Like,
well, Coach played against Donnie, didn't you? In high school?
Yes, he was my era. Yeah. Things didn't go super well against them at that point.
Coach, really quickly before we let you go, the new stadium, is that going to have seats on both sides or just on the one side again?
Just on the one side again. Yeah, okay, so very similar to Blaine, who will have we have the same bleacher contractor that did them. So a lot of similarities.
So in a couple of years, when you guys get the home game, your fans are going to have to deal with all of those stinky people from Linden, huh? Taking up some of the stands on the home side.
Well, we might bring some grandstands in for that one.
Okay, I like that idea. That's a better way to get rid of those people. And that is, yes, a shot at Blake Whitman more than anybody. We do love getting in a shot at Blake Whitman anytime we can get it. Well, Coach, we'll let you go. Thanks for your time. Obviously, best of luck this season. I think Tyler and I are both really excited to see the Golden Eagles. I'm not going to give it away just yet, but you guys will be somewhere in the top 10. We'll just got to figure it out. I don't know about you, Coach. I think that Stanwood team is going to surprise some people this year. They're going to be fun to watch. Coach Skoma down there told me they have something like 18 starters returning. So, and you guys get them, I believe, the last week of the season. That could be a real Donnybrook up there. So
yeah, they are going to be a very good team for sure. He's done a great job there.
He has. He's done a really good job. He's awesome. I've seen them quite a bit. That Ryder Bumgarner they got there, man. That kid he might have the biggest thighs I've ever seen, and that includes linemen. Yeah. I don't know. That's a guy that doesn't miss leg day. That's for sure.
Yeah. I remember. I think Coach remembers him breaking off a few runs last year, if I remember right.
Yes, yeah. I do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Coach, thank you again for your time, and we'll definitely be seeing you somewhere around the field because I got a feeling I'm going to see you guys at least once or twice this coming season.
Thank you guys for all you do for high school sports, right? I mean, especially with how things have changed in local media and all, we can't thank you enough for all you do, bringing attention to our kids.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.